Welcome to today's Explainer. Sometimes you look at something that seems, well, perfectly ordinary for a weekend celebration, but upon closer inspection, it turns out to be absolutely extraordinary. Today, we're going to treat an incredible, space-themed birthday cake not just as a delicious dessert, but as a meticulously crafted piece of temporary fine art. We're going to break down the whole shebang, the composition, the color theory, and the sheer structural ingenuity that actually elevates this bake into a literal galactic masterpiece. So let's dive right in and ask a pretty monumental question. How exactly does a baker translate the infinite, mind-boggling expanse of the universe onto a single, finite, edible canvas? I mean, it's a massive challenge of scale, of texture, and of lighting. Think about it. You're trying to represent the literal vacuum of space, swirling nebula, and whole planetary bodies using nothing but sugar, butter, and food coloring. Right here, we have a dynamic planetary cake sitting on a really sleek black counter with gold trim. And notice how the environment itself kind of plays into the theme? That dark countertop reflects the cake, much like the deep darkness of space itself. Setting the stage like this really lets us appreciate the thematic deconstruction we're about to jump into, because this isn't just a cake on a table. It's a self-contained galaxy that absolutely demands our attention.
All right, let's start with the big picture, the macro, crafting the galactic canvas.
Before you can even think about placing planets, you've got to create the universe they live in, right? The absolutely crucial point here is how layering three very specific visual textures transforms what could have been just a simple, flat, dark frosting into an incredibly convincing illusion of deep space. So you start with a deep, almost midnight blue base to act as the void. Then you bring in these watercolor-like smears of pastel green and purple for the gaseous nebulae. And finally, you've got these distinct clusters of tiny white pearl nonpareils scattered all over to mimic distant glowing stardust.
And you can really see that painterly technique at play on the icing here. If you look closely at the side of the cake, do you see how those smears of pastel colors completely lack harsh edges? They seamlessly fade and blend right into the dark cosmic background. I mean, this isn't just precision piping, it's practically expressionist frosting. The baker basically used a spatula like a palette knife to create a real sense of depth and movement. You can almost imagine the gases of the sugar nebula drifting through space.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit. The micro-edible celestial bodies.
Now, what's super interesting when you compare these subtle angles is how they highlight the spatial relationship between our main cast of celestial bodies. Right dead center, almost commanding the orbit of the cake, we have this prominent blue and green Earth-like sphere. Tucked just behind and to the left is a beautifully textured, cratered gray moon-like sphere, and then down to the right sits a bright, solid red Mars-like planet. By offsetting these spheres and mixing up their sizes, the baker creates this really realistic sense of gravity and orbit. It doesn't feel static at all, it actually feels like a snapshot of a solar system in motion.
But actually, the artistry doesn't just stop at the